Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Carjacking event seminar at the Tinley Park Convention Center. Many thanks to the Sheriff's Office, Tom Dart, for putting this outreach effort together to address the recent surge in carjackings in around Cook County and to educate us all on prevention strategies. For me, this topic is very personal. Just this past January, my daughter's car was carjacked right here in Tinley Park. I might be the mayor of Tinley Park, but first and foremost, I am a father. And this really hit home with us. I speak from personal experience today when I say we need to do something, and now, to address this growing problem in and around our community. This seminar is just the latest in a series of actions in Tinley Park that has been taking. We worked with the Department of Justice, Illinois State Police, and the Sheriff's Police to install license plate recognition cameras in our community to identify these stolen cars and cars used in the crimes. We also set up a task force in collaboration with 2 surrounding communities to combat the uptick in crime at our local car dealerships. We want to arm our residents with the knowledge they need to take preventative measures against these carjackings. That's why we've teamed up with the Sheriff Dart to bring this seminar to you tonight, to help prevent what happened to my daughter from happening to you and to someone that you love. I truly believe the best way to fight back is with knowledge. Hopefully what you learn here today will help you give you the tools that are necessary to avoid becoming a victim yourself. Now here's a message from our sheriff, Tom Dart.
Hi, I'm Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. I'm upset that I won't be with you there tonight, but as you can imagine in my office, things occur which make it so that it's a little tricky for me to schedule things and lock them in too well. So I apologize up front for that. But I am happy that we're talking about this. Who wants to talk about crime? Not too many people, but this issue is so important. And so I'm so glad that your mayor helped bring this together and bring people together to talk about this issue, to gain some information about it, some tips on how you can not be a victim, and some things we can do going forward. So I can't emphasize enough to you. If there's 2 things I hear most about, it's carjackings and shootings. And they're 2 issues that people should be talking about. No society should have these things going on, nowhere. And particularly here in our county, it has been bad. It really has. I mean, if you think about it, if you look at our past year, 2,100 carjackings in Cook County. The vast majority of all those were in the city of Chicago. But nonetheless, if you were to take all of New York's carjackings, all of LA's carjackings, add them together, they come to 1,000, a little under 1,000. Ours were 2,100. So we have every reason to be concerned and every reason to be demanding action. And that's frankly what our office and others have been doing. We have banded together in a task force where we go out as a group, ourselves, the Chicago Police Department, suburban departments, the state police, the FBI. We utilize helicopters, license plate readers, all the above to try to get to carjackers as quickly as we can. We've had some success. We're recovering vehicles more quickly. We're recovering more of them. But the reality of it is there's no way for us to get our arms around this until we can track vehicles immediately. And that's why I was in Springfield yesterday to get legislation passed that would require the manufacturers to give us tracking data immediately. I was in Washington about 3 weeks ago testifying for Senator Durbin about the exact same issue. He's been such a help on this to try to get a national solution to this. But the solution is very straightforward, frankly. Virtually every car since 2015 has a tracking capability on it. And if the manufacturers would give us that information when a carjacking has occurred, we could catch individuals in a very short period of time. We could catch the person who actually did it in the vehicle, because as the time takes longer and longer, the likelihood of that person being behind the wheel is slimmer and slimmer. And the other thing too is the quicker we can catch the person and get the car back, the less likely it's going to be used in another crime, which frequently occurs. Unfortunately, though, more often than not, when we call people, other than frankly GM or OnStar, who are amazing partners, they're fantastic, but outside of them, we call to try to get tracking with the victim right next to us. They will sit there and tell us that, well, you know what, we only work 9 to 5. We don't have anyone on call right now. We don't work weekends. They'll say that the individual who just had a gun put to their head has to pay $20 up front before they'll get the tracking going. They have given us so many excuses. None of them are excuses that you would accept as reasonable from billion-dollar companies. Nobody would. And so we're going to continue to press on that because that is the game changer. We can do so much if we can track these vehicles. But in the meantime, there are things that we can do, all of us can do, to make this better and safer. And we're going to have an individual from my office, Conn, who's going to come on right after me, and he's going to walk you through some of the different things that we have found throughout our history of dealing with this issue. Things that can make you feel safer and make you feel a little bit more in control. And so, as I say, things are not good. They're not good. But there are things that are in play. There's things that you can do individually, and there's things we can do to make this better. So once again, I apologize for not being there in person, and I thank you so much for inviting us, but I just want to emphasize to you, anything our office can do to help you on this issue or whatever the issue might be, we will be there for you. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for being here, and I want to thank Tinley Park Police Department for having us here, and the mayor for having us here as well. I'm Conn from the Cook County Sheriff's Office. I'm also that Conn that used to be on the radio and television, but a couple of years ago I made a change to come over to law enforcement, and that's why I'm here today. So that was obviously Sheriff Tom Dart. About a year ago, he decided that one of the most among the many pressing issues that are happening in the Chicago metropolitan area in terms of crime, carjacking is predominant in the sense that it changes how we actually behave. It changes how we operate as a society in a lot of ways. People are afraid now to get into their car. It is a very easy crime to perpetrate, is a very hard crime to prosecute, and that's not necessarily political. That's just a reality, and I'll explain a little bit of how that actually works here in just a moment. And we also have Larry Rafferty, who's the Deputy Chief of Tinley Park, who's going to join us here in a couple of minutes, talk a little bit about what's happening in your community specifically. But I just want to give you an idea of sort of county-wide where we are. We put together, we started this project in March of last year, and by June we were done with the primary project. This is a dashboard. It's a three-dimensional look at vehicular hijacking, which is the legal term for carjacking, throughout Cook County. And if you'll notice up here on the top, your left of the screen, 4,153 incidents since January 1 of 2020. So that's in 27 months, there have been, and 7 days, 4,100 incidents. And as the sheriff mentioned in his video, and this is kind of a stark thing to think about, 2,100 incidents last year, 21 total incidents. That includes attempts, which were about 60. The city of Chicago had 1,900 or so, and there were 130 in suburban Cook County. Now, when you put that in perspective, and you hear these stories about carjacking's terrible around the country, it's on the rise. You've got Washington and Minneapolis, Philadelphia have had big increases in them. But if you take New York and Los Angeles, the two largest metropolitan areas in the nation, each of them had about 500 incidents. So between the two of them, around 1,000 incidents, and we had 2,100. And when you think about that they have 7 times the population in those metropolitan areas that we do. So it clearly is an issue here. And what we do is, so this is for law enforcement only. We do take abstracts, and obviously we present them to the public like we're doing here tonight. But the question we get asked a lot, and it's even a question that we were asking ourselves in law enforcement in this as we were putting it all together, Is there a proclivity for certain types of vehicles? How are they operating? Why are they doing what they're doing? What are they thinking? And what this project has done has looked at all of the data from all of these incidents from 2020 on, and also has added in narrative capabilities that we've cooperated with the FBI. We partnered with the FBI on this to do interviews with prolific carjackers when they're in custody, not about their cases, but about the people who have had charges throughout their criminal history of possession of stolen motor vehicle, criminal trespass to vehicle, or vehicular hijacking, and we ask them, like, what drives you? What are you interested in? Why are you choosing this car versus that car? And we put together basically a profile, and the FBI does this regularly, a criminal profile for what a carjacker, what drives them. And there's a couple different categories of carjackers that we've learned about. And obviously you hear a lot in the press, and there are some, there have been some arguments that about half of these are kids who are out joyriding. Well, yeah, a little less than half of the people who get arrested are juveniles. That's correct, but they're not necessarily joyriding. There's an economics to this that goes beyond just going out and having fun. And yes, that does exist, and there are some really chilling videos on Facebook and other places that you can find of kids who are literally trying to. They're on TikTok or they're on Facebook Live or some other encrypted social media channel, and they are literally holding up the phone while they're out running the police and bragging about it. And that's a social media game that is being played. It's not a big piece of this puzzle. It is not. It gets a lot of attention because you can get to see it on social media. The bigger piece of this puzzle is for cars to be hijacked to be used in furtherance of another crime, whether it's a shooting, a murder, attempted murder, burglary of ATMs. These little ATMs, you go into a store and you ever walk by them, like in a bar, or restaurant, or convenience store, and you go, man, I can't believe that somebody just doesn't pick this up and take it out. Well, they do. And they use primarily stolen cars to do it. And so there are three ways to steal a car. You can steal a car, in a driveway or off the street or whatever that happens to be that's already closed and locked. Or you can go to a dealership and steal one from there because the keys might be on the premises. Or you can hijack a car. That is the simplest, fastest way to get a vehicle and the least complicated for the offenders. This is a heat map that shows Chicago 2020. This is everything from the last 2.5 years. And you can see that if you look at this, the west side and western suburbs are particularly impacted. And then if you go down that line here that comes down this way, that is basically 9094. So we follow it basically from 290 to 9094, then all the way down to the split, and then it sort of spreads out. And then you can see down here, if you want, like Tinley, and this area is right here. Now, it's less affected than the rest of the city, but if you notice, you go just as far to the north as you do the south of the city, you see that the southern suburbs have a more significant problem than the northern suburbs do, and then the outlying western suburbs, and then specifically DuPage County, which I don't have on this map, but I can tell you anecdotally does not have the same issues. This is suburban Cook County. This is another way of looking at this. I sort of extracted everything from the city so you could see what this looks like for you. And again, western suburbs, those things that are touching the city of Chicago, that share a border. Because remember, these folks are not really interested in borders. They don't care about crossing over, whether they're in Chicago or they are in Berwyn or Cicero or Oak Park, or coming down even down to here. They do, and this is not every offender that we run into, but we do know that there are offenders who are aware of what county they're in and are surprised when they get taken into custody in another county. They go, oh, damn it. Oh, this is DuPage, or this is Will, because they know that they're going to go to a different setting that way. There's also the chance that they'll get $1 million bond in DuPage County or Will County that they wouldn't necessarily get in Cook County, but primarily it changes where they're going to be housed. And that's the thing that comes to, at least according to the interviews that we've done with them. This is another expression that we do on the dashboard that allows us to see the beginning and ending points. And this is Cook County. This is just a spaghetti mess here. I didn't actually take it down. If I took it down to a week or a day or a month or whatever, you'd be able to see this a little bit more clearly. But this is a really important thing that we've been able to identify as well. If cars are taken in a specific area and then they all end up in another specific area, so the green is the beginning, the red is the end, then we know that we're dealing with the same crews or individuals who know each other and that are related to each other in some way, shape, or form, either through a social relationship, familial relationship, or just a neighborhood relationship. And so this is a really important tool that we're using right now to be able to go, once cars are taken in a specific area, and there are some pretty unique areas where you go, man, who's coming up into here to do it, especially in the city? And we go and we see if there's been a number of those cars dumped in the same place. That's a good place for us to go and start our investigation. We initiated the vehicle the track vehicle partnership, and I'll get to that in a second. But Larry, you want to come up here and we can talk a little bit about what's happening down here? I'll come back to here. This slide specifically, it shows you what is happening. And Larry and I have worked a couple of these together. We have a nightclub act we're going to be working on starting next week.
Good evening. My name is Larry Rafferty. I'm the Deputy Chief of Police. I am in charge of police operations for the Village of Tinley Park. Thank you all for being here. Just a little bit about what we're doing here in Tinley Park. We started a multi-jurisdictional group. We've been working with our surrounding partners, surrounding communities, surrounding police departments, and trying to combat some of this. We noticed that we had some incidents occurring we were being notified that we were having some incidents occurring at our car dealerships, and we suspected that maybe that's the way they were going next. It was going to be where we were going to start having issues at the car dealerships, grabbing key fobs and things like that. There were some very similar incidents that occurred in some of the surrounding towns. So we decided to load up what we call a saturation patrol on 159th Street from Ridgeland all the way to LaGrange Road. We're with our partners in Orland Park and Orland Hills, and it was very effective. We pursued a handful of vehicles that came in town that weren't technically or what you would classify stolen vehicle, but they were vehicles that had no license plates, no markers, no identifiers on them. We believe those cars coming into town were vehicles that we needed to either pursue or let them know were on 159th Street, because if they were coming there for any wrongdoing, we were going to follow them into town, see what they were up to, and then move on. We worked with our license plate readers, which are very, very effective for us. They're very, very helpful. It gives us an idea of when these vehicles are coming into town, what they're doing when they come into town, and for us, it gives us the thought that if a car's coming into town, maybe the car's stolen, maybe the car license plates, it's missing license plates. A lot of times, those cars end up going to our gas stations, committing different types of crimes, from auto thefts, from obviously carjackings, things like that, because they're coming in with plates that obviously our license plate readers are not picking up. So we're also alerted of those vehicles. The officers are aware of it. So our whole thing was about prevention. It was to stop it before it started and to flood our area and flood 159th Street for our residents and for our dealerships. We were in and out of gas stations, in and out of the businesses. Gas stations is Ro. Where'd you go, Ro? There you are. One of the things, if you see what we handed out to you tonight, we have that on our website. We have all of those things on the village's website. If you want to print them, take them off, and they're all under the law enforcement page under the police department. You can click on any of those. They're fantastic. They're great things for these scams that have been going on. It's another thing for another day. But if you see gas stations, ATMs, parking lots and garages, residential driveways, what we want you to do is be very aware of where you're at. Be very aware of what is around you, what's going on around you, when you pull in, when you walk out, when you go to the gas station. There is tons and tons of videos, and I'm sure Ro can tell you that's where these kids that are doing these people that are doing these, that's where they're hanging out. They're going into gas stations, they're watching you, they're watching what you do. They see you leave your car running, you're left your key fob inside your vehicle with your purse, your cell phone, they jump into your car and they drive away. It's a theft. but I believe if you were in that car, that they would have forcibly removed you and pulled you out of that car. So they're all related. They're all for the same purpose. If they don't have to carjack someone, they won't. If they have to, they will. And so what we wanted to do is let you know about what our efforts have been. And again, they've been very effective. I'm happy with what's gone on. We have loaded up 159th Street. I've had the dealerships actually ask me. They see the increase of the police officers on 159th Street. So that was our purpose, is to kind of combat it that way. So, you ready? I will give it back to you. Are you not done? Right?
Yeah, well, no, I would actually just echo the sentiments in terms of public safety and being aware of your surroundings, things like that. We have here our safety tips, very similar. I can't stress enough, we do this for the entire county. So we have different, basically, depending on the community that we're talking to, there are different issues. In the suburbs, and as Chief Rafferty just mentioned, in the suburbs, the gas station and parking lots of retail parking lots, whatever they happen to be, whether it's a strip mall or a larger mall, that's where you're going to see this activity. Doesn't really happen as it does in the city, on city streets, residential streets, things like that. You don't really have that in the suburbs like you do in the city or in traffic. Again, really, really important point here. If you are in traffic, remember to give yourself room from the car in front of you. And whether, even if you're, out here getting off of 80 or whatever it happens to be, and you get into a line, make sure you can see the rear tires of the car in front of you. If you get too close, if you can't see them, then that means you can't in one move be able to get to your left or to your right away from them. They will, however, if it's a team that's going to try to vehicularly hijack you, they're going to try to box you in. And if they're not taking, like you're in the city or some other places where it's a dynamic situation, that's what's going to happen. They're going to cut you off with a car in front or behind or both, and they're going to find a way to get to you. Here in the suburbs, it's different. Most of it is an approach on foot. It is not. There is a chase car. Generally, they are arriving in a car, but they will be leaving. One person, maybe two, will be in your vehicle, and then there will be 2 or 3 more in the other vehicle that are leaving. And that's one of the reasons it's a really difficult crime to prosecute, because what will occur is the one person that you see, and you may see them face to face when they're carjacking you, you may not. If they're presenting a weapon, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be looking at that weapon. And so it's very hard to tell, if we were to catch them, if Tinley Park were to catch them, and to be able to identify them and bring you there, or photo lineup or whatever it happens to be, you probably are going to have a little difficulty with it, because again, because of COVID and everything, the masks, that's a very difficult barrier to get past in terms of identification. But then there is just being able to say, well, who is this person? Well, they've added a trick to that. There's a twist, which is that within 3 blocks of them carjacking the car in the city, it's longer out here, they will literally stop, the chase car will pick up with them, and then they'll throw a juvenile into the car to drive away. Because that juvenile is unlikely to be able to go to jail. And you won't be then able to identify the carjacker, because if we stop that car and we take that juvenile into custody, that's not going to be the same person. They're not going to be wearing the same clothes. We tell people always look down at your feet, at the feet, and try to identify the shoes that they're wearing, because offenders they can strip off their clothes. They do it all the time they have layers, and they'll drop clothes so that they're wearing something totally different, but they can't change their shoes. So that's just something to think about. And these are other safety tips. Obviously, you've received those also here from the Tinley Park Police Department. What to do if you are a victim, if this does happen to you. Avoid any kind of a confrontation. They have a gun. I know we get this. I know you get it all the time, Chief. I'm a concealed carry person. Can I shoot them? It has happened. I know of 3 cases in which, in 3 cases over the last 15 years, both being in the media and in law enforcement, that I have either covered or seen a record of, in which that has actually worked. There was an interesting case within the last couple of months where a state senator was carjacked in the western suburbs, and her husband was a concealed carry holder, and he fired off shots at them. But that was an exchange of gunfire in that particular case. Pulling out a gun and aiming it at them, if they've got the drop on you, you'll learn this in CCL class anyway, it's very hard to do. I always, this is just a personal thing for me, I tell my own family this, who they are CCL holders, don't present the weapon unless it's imminent and you feel as though, because if you start to reach for the weapon, they'll shoot you. And that's the thing. You have to be, and shooting somebody as they're fleeing is another problem. Once they've gotten back in the car and they've taken off, firing shots at that car, law enforcement cannot do it. We'll go to jail for doing that. Individuals, I wouldn't suggest you do it. I don't want to get into the law of it because I don't want anybody to say I told you to do it. But it's not a particularly effective way of managing this. It sucks, but the reality is giving up the car. The car is a piece of property. It is not your family. You'll get another car. We'll probably get you back that car within hours out here for sure. That'll happen. And now this is a very startling thing. If you go down to the second to last piece here, if there's a child in the car, do tell them that there's a child in the car. They don't want to take that child because once they take that child, it's kidnapping, and they know it. These are sophisticated folks in their world, right? In the world of criminal behavior and carjacking. This is their job. They know what they're doing. They know what the rules are. They know what the laws are. They know, like I said, where they are. They're very aware of their surroundings. You need to be as aware of your surroundings and also understand their mindset as best you can. The vehicle tracking program that I mentioned, these are stickers that are available at county courthouses. The closest one here is Markham. And what we're doing is we're encouraging people to actually sign up through our office with an affidavit to have your vehicle tracked by the manufacturer, if it can be tracked by the manufacturer. If you have a car that was built after 2015, very likely it's able to be tracked by the manufacturer. The important thing that we do is we tell people to go to our website right here, the community relations page of the website, or column. You come down to the bottom, you click on the carjacking tips, you then you just download the consent form. It's in 3 languages right now. We're eventually going to add more, because we are finding, this is happening in every community throughout the city. You fill out this consent form. It's very simple, takes 5 minutes, and then you send it back to our office at the email address that is at the bottom there, ccso.carjack@ccsheriff.org. And I had to memorize that. Don't be impressed that I was able to spit that out so quickly. And all of these manufacturers, almost every manufacturer in the world is capable of doing this, but all the cars sold in the United States after 2017, but built after 2015, most of them are capable of being tracked by the manufacturer. Some of them in real time. The best by far, the best are General Motors products and OnStar. They're incredible at doing this. They help law enforcement. They were just here a few weeks ago training us, Chicago Police and FBI, on ways to better use their services, the OnStar service. That OnStar has been around for decades, and it is capable of tracking on turn by turn. Now, one important point here, we get this all the time about safety and personal, the idea of, any personal information and people being involved in your business. We cannot track your car without your consent. We can't just call up General Motors or any of the rest of these guys and say, hey, by the way, it's a blue Kia with a license plate, blah, 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 blah. We're interested. Where is that car right now? They won't give that to us. They will not give that to us. They have to have your consent, the owner's consent, to track the car. So there is a line right here in this affidavit that points at that out. This is, you're only giving consent in the event that the vehicle has been unlawfully taken. That means it's not you. We're not worried. You should not worry that you're being tracked by us. You should want the person or persons that stole your car to be tracked by us, is what you want. And that's what we're giving you the opportunity to make it a little bit smoother and faster for us when we actually reach out to the manufacturers and say, hey, we need help tracking this particular vehicle. So if this is basically what I've got for you right here. If you have any other questions that I can answer or Deputy Chief Rafferty can answer. I have a tip that I tell people to use. It's not foolproof, but it's if you happen to have like an old cell phone sitting around, there's a lot of people who once they get a new cell phone, they don't want to hand their cell phone to somebody else, so they want to get it to their kids. Their kids have an old one or whatever it is. Put that in the center console of your car. So when they pull you out and they go, all right, I need your phone, because they will say that, or they'll pat you down looking for your phone. You go, it's in the center console. They'll move faster. They just want that key to that car and your cell phone. They don't care. They don't care about your money. They don't care about any of the rest of that stuff. I mean, in the city, it's a little different. You get if somebody's got like a super expensive purse or something, they're going to want to take that as well. They just want to strip you of everything that you can do that would make it fast for you to be able to get to a phone, call 911, whatever it is. That's really the most important thing they're doing, because they're not keeping that cell phone. They're dumping that cell phone, because that cell phone's trackable. And they know that. The vehicle, though, then it has very little value to them. But they're going to take that cell phone and toss it out. I had a guy that got carjacked in Northbrook, and we found his cell phone an hour later at 87th and the Ryan. Are there cameras on the on and off ramps for the expressway? Is that what you're asking? There are on some, and some there are not. This is how many business owners do we have in the audience with us today? Okay, handful of them. We're suggesting that business owners, especially if you have street side businesses or you have strip malls or whatever, there are companies you can buy private cameras from that have license plate reading capability, and they come from those companies, and they can interact with, they can interface with local law enforcement. So we're doing this in Chicago, where all these businesses downtown are actually doing that. They're putting up license plate readers in front of their businesses. It's helping immensely, especially down like on Oak Street and Walton and places like that, where high end. The state of Illinois, though, to answer your question a little bit more, broadly, the state of Illinois is putting up, I think, 180 more cameras are going up on the expressway system through the Illinois State Police. That is designed specifically. They have license plate reading technology. There's a lot of other like 21st century optics capabilities where they can get really good clear pictures. And if there is a car that does hit on a license plate reader, they're able to get it from a couple of different angles, and then they can watch it as it moves to the next license plate reader. And they're at staged locations on the expressway system on 90, 94, 290. 80 has some, not as many. Okay, so the question, if you didn't hear it, the question is, does the license plate reader match the vehicle of the registration? It does, if that's the license plate for the vehicle. What a lot of these crews will do is they'll go hunt license plates. Let's say, for example, there's certain Jeep products that they're like the top of the food chain for carjack crews, because they're incredibly fast cars. That's one of the things we've learned from the carjackers in jail, is that they want fast cars because they want to be able to outrun us, and they want cars that are faster than police cars. And in the state of Illinois, we're really restricted in what we can do in terms of chasing them anyway, and they know that. So if they can get quickly away from us, they know they've lost us. That's why we have to use other assets like helicopters and license plate readers and things like that, and other kind of geolocation devices that we have, like the tracking from the manufacturers. That way we're not flying blind. We're not chasing them. No one's there. We're not going to get into an accident with them and potentially hurt citizens. So that's the whole idea behind that. So what they will do, though, is they'll go, let's say they want a white SRT Dodge Durango, let's say. And that's a super fast car, and that's like the filet mignon for the carjacker right there. It's a big win for them to get that. And they'll go find another Dodge Durango with a license plate. They'll steal the license plate off the car. And then they'll go carjack it and throw that license plate from that they just ripped off onto the car they have just vehicular hijacked, and that buys them maybe 24 to 48 hours before we get the right license plate into the system for that vehicle. We're on to them. They thought they were getting ahead of us. We're on to them about that, so we're looking for that. But that's another thing that's important. Check your license plates on your car regularly. Make sure as you're getting in your car every day, if you're coming in from behind or from the front, look at your license plate and make sure it is still your license plate. I know it sounds stupid, right? But it is absolutely, especially high-end cars. The Toyota Camry #1 carjack car here. But again, these are all in very small percentages. It's still, I would be less worried about that. However, a Camry is often used in the furtherance of a shooting. So because it is so ubiquitous, because there are so many out there. So there's a silver Toyota Camry that we're looking for. Good luck to us, right? So that is a part of it. Those are excellent questions, though. And yes, the technology is out there. The cameras are getting less expensive. That's why we're encouraging businesses to get involved in it, and then they can all interface. Like in the city of Chicago, every police district has SDSC room, Strategic Decision Command Center. And what that does is that all those cameras in that district, all the public cameras and all of the private cameras that sign up to be a part of it, so we can recreate crimes. We can watch things and it moves back. They have an incredible system for being able to keep that video, and that's how they got Jussie Smollett. I mean, they kind of got him, but they got him. Because they were able to go back and follow him on camera by camera by camera in the city. And then his people who, went to the hardware store and bought the rope and all of that, they were able to see them and track back using those cameras. So it's a great system. It's working. They're on to us a little bit, but eventually we're going to win this battle. Yeah, you should. Your car key and your house key should be separate. Yeah, for sure. Two different key, two different keychains. Ford's a unique situation. Well, Ford is not 9 to 5. Ford actually, they only do it. Ford only tracks the vehicles through your app. You have the app to track the vehicle. So we need to get to you, and we need to get to a phone that has the app on it. And then while we're with you, you're tracking the car for us. Ford has an app. You should already, when you bought the Ford, they offer you the app. Get the app. That app has a tracking capability. It has all the dynamics of the car on it. You can tell if you're low tire pressure, whatever, where the car is at all times. That's an important thing to have. Chevy's got that as well through OnStar. A lot of auto manufacturers offer that, and they kind of leave it up to you, and they stay out of the business. Well, and that works well. I mean, we get a lot of Fords back, and Fords are not as highly sought for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons is they're very trackable, but they are trackable, again, by you. And so we need to have you and someone else. Someone else's phone has got to have that capability in your household. For those who didn't hear that, there are a couple of different websites and a couple of different Facebook groups that are looking at the stolen car situation as well. Yes, the internal telematics tracking system inside these vehicles can be disabled by the bad guys. Not always. As a matter of fact, it gets disabled, in our experience, about 20% of the time. Especially when they're trying to steal the SRT, Dodge, or Jeep, or Chrysler products. That's a pretty easy system for them to defeat. In the older cars, in the newer cars, it's not. Dodge got onto them about that. They figured out that the process they were using, also Mercedes, was fairly easy to disable. It isn't as much, and Toyota the same way. They've all started to adjust to that. Apple AirTags, that's an interesting thing. We've had mixed success with that. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Also, when you have an Apple AirTag or the Google version of that, if you're not around that tag, if your phone's not around that tag and a new phone comes into that space and is in that space for a certain period of time, then it will alert those phones in the car the bad guys' phones, that there's a tracking device in the car that's tracking them. It's a personal privacy issue that they've all had to, and it gives them the indication that that vehicle is being tracked, with that, and they'll get out and look for it. Now, like there's other things like LoJack and other products that are out and available now. It's a new LoJack, as a matter of fact, not the same company who owns them, but they bought the name. It's a pretty great product, quite honestly, but if they're stealing your car to revin it and retag it and resell it, which is what they will do for the higher end cars, they'll take it to a garage, they'll disable the battery, and then they'll go around the car with a wand that will tell them if there's another battery activated item inside the car, and that will be the LoJack, and they'll know it's in there. So it isn't it's not foolproof. People should try anything that they want to, if they feel comfortable with. Some of it will work. I mean, not every carjacker is going to be that sophisticated, or a car thief is going to be that sophisticated and know that tag is in there. So that it might work. I'm not opposed, I would never tell you not to do that. Another thing, though, that is important, and I don't know if you guys have seen this down here, if there's a car that they like, they don't want to carjack it, they'll put an air tag in the car somewhere. In the back of they'll come up, they'll put it in either the gas tank door, they'll put it in the rear bumper, they'll put it up underneath they throw it up by the windshield underneath there, by the windshield wipers underneath there, and they'll track you back home or wherever the thing is parked so they can steal it overnight. So be aware. So watch your phones. If you're in your car and you get a notification that your car is that there is a tracking device nearby, and it's not yours and it's not somebody else's that just got in the car, there might be a vehicle tracking device on board the vehicle. How long do they stay in jail before they're prosecuted? That is an excellent question. It really depends on the case. There's no one answer to that, and I'm sorry, and I know that sounds like BS, but there isn't a single answer. When we have prolific carjackers, we're very insistent at the sheriff's office, and I know local law enforcement, Chicago police is, and suburban police are, when we get somebody that we know we can see on their rap sheet. I mean, again, this is not everybody doing this. These are very specific crews that are doing this, and they're very well practiced at it in the main. 80, 90% of these are people who've done, I can just tell you that everyone we've talked to has been involved in dozens of these. We have one guy that is working in the southern suburbs who we talked to who does one a day. Now, primarily, not down here primarily, but it's like that's not an unusual situation. So once we get them in, we have to go to the judges. We go to the state's attorney's office, and I got to say, and I don't want to get into the politics of that. I'm not able to. But what I can say is that there are dedicated people in the state's attorney's office who are the line prosecutors who go in and day out and go in front of the judges and say, Judge, this is this person who was arrested by the Cook County Sheriff's Police or by the Chicago Police Department or any other suburban municipality. And they will say, this is what this person has done. And the judge, and they fight to keep that person in jail. And the judge will say, nope, electronic monitoring. And 80% of the people on electronic monitoring right now have been arrested for a violent offense. And that's just unacceptable. That's as far as I'll go, ma'am. My, how the times have changed. Imagine in my old world what I'd be saying right now. Okay, so what happens to the cars? We get this all the time. There's a lot of different answers to that question. Again, primarily they're dumped. About 30% are resold. I mean, what they'll do is they'll take them to a garage. They'll sweep them for another device. They will then try to change the VIN on the car. They will then try to retitle the car. There are states that have very loose titling laws. You don't have to necessarily present the car. You can do this. Texas allows you to become a car dealer online. So yeah, I know. Just before you're thinking, I'm going to move to Texas, think about that for a second. they allow you to then you can retitle a car in another state. Just go get the title and bring it back once you've created a fake VIN. And again, these are crews that know what they're doing. They know how to do it so it will look like something. Or they'll go to salvage yards. I mean, this is ingenious, and I'm not trying to give them credit for this because they're criminals, but it's pretty ingenious. They'll go to a salvage yard. They'll find a car that is the same make and model essentially, that is being was totaled, and they're tearing it up and they crush it or whatever, or they'll get numbers from somebody who's on the inside in one of those crushing yards, and they'll get VINs for they don't have to have the color right because they can repaint the car, but they can get the make and the model and the year, and boom, they just then use that to get a new VIN. They apply for a new VIN plate because the car has been titled. They get a salvage title for the car, and then they move forward on that. Yes, fake temp tags are a big deal, yeah. We're pretty good at figuring it out, let's put it that way. Once the temp tags, you know what there's two great things. Street cops and nosy neighbors are the absolute, that's your first line of defense. Street cops call in, it happens all the time. I do this all the time. I've got one of my officers back here with me who's on my team. When we're driving around, I'll be calling, if I see something that looks suspicious, I just call it into our dispatch and I run the plate just to figure out if that plate is real, like temp tags especially. Temp tags that are like faded. You can tell that they're old at that point. There have been investigations into some of the neighboring states. They've been compromised in their temp tags, and there may be individuals inside those agencies that are doing that. So, we're on to all of that as well. But once that's in, we put that in our LPR, license plate reader alert system, so that fake temp tag will hit, and we'll know where that car is moving. It is an excellent idea to put a kill switch in your car, if you can do it. Now, General Motors products have it already. Do they get mad because yes, they do get mad, but they're away from you when it happens. So that's better. It's better that way. The kill switch, and by the way, people go, oh, we just kill a car like that. That's not how a kill switch works. Like for General Motors, they'll kill a car for us, but the car has to have slowed down to 5 miles an hour and come to a stop. And then they can actually disable the engine. We store it. We store it secured, absolutely. Oh my God, you should see the secured system that we have. We just actually had to change again. That everybody's going through a new security upgrade, given global events. I can't find my own email, so you're going to be fine in terms of securing that data. And this is publicly available data anyway through the Secretary of State's office. They can, it's law enforcement available, I should say, not publicly available. But so all that, but what we're doing is we're storing you so if we can't get a hold of you, your car has been stolen. Let's say your kids are driving the car. They're not the owners of the car. Your kids can't give permission for us to track the car. It has to be the owner of the car that gives permission. That's why we do this. It saves us some time. Do they do trucks? What kind of truck? Yes, they do everything. Yeah, they carjacked an ambulance. Well, like I said, we're running a program right now to try to figure out it's a diversion from the mean program to figure out which cars are actually preferred. And it's the Dodge products right now, the Challenger, the Charger, the SRT versions of those, the Jeep Trackhawk. That's primarily in Chicago, the Durango SRT. Those are very hot products for them. People think, oh, they're gonna carjack a Lamborghini or something like that. They very rarely ever do that. We actually had an unfortunate situation. My favorite story until it turned somewhat tragic was when they would get in and try to steal a car and it had a stick shift, and they didn't know how to drive manual, except they shot a guy 4 weeks ago because they got so frustrated that they asked him to help him drive the car, and he's okay. He's okay. I mean, he's shot, so but he's not, it was, not fatal, and it's not life-altering in any way, but that was a very frustrating thing. We've seen it, but we don't see a lot of it. We do have a couple, but it's very low. Out of the 4,100, whatever I've got up there, that number keeps moving by the hour. It's like a telethon back there when we're watching the numbers go up. But it is, maybe 5 that I've seen. And generally vehicular hijacking on that sometimes you don't get that charge when your motorcycle is stolen because you're kind of on your feet and off and whatever it is. Generally, a motorcycle is stolen. It's much easier to steal a motorcycle and just throw it onto a truck and get away with it as opposed to taking it off somebody. How to plate readers work. If they just take a picture of the plate and then it goes through a computer algorithm and they figure out what they connect it. We're working on that because we think there's a lot of factors. Open roads here, big thing. And we were surprised, like in New York City had like 50 on the island of Manhattan. And all the rest were in the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn. And because you got open roads, you got good egress points. You'll notice on the heat map that we had up here before, all of this happens, as I was showing you the highway situation here. Hold on. Back here somewhere. If you look at that, it goes around the highways because the majority of this is done within 1.5 miles of an interstate or lakeshore drive because they can get on and get away. And the guys on the west side are stealing, and then they're going to the south side. Guys on the north side are stealing and going to the south side or west side. Guys on the south side are going to the north side. They're not stealing in their own neighborhoods necessarily because they'll be recognized, and they like to go in and then get back out and dump somewhere else or do whatever they're going to do somewhere else. And I would like to second what the chief has said here. They do an excellent job out here. Tinley, Orland, it's really, they're on this. So the numbers in this area are very low compared to other suburbs, some of the other suburbs in the Chicago metropolitan area and certainly the city. In some cases, they are. If they take you with them, they get charged with kidnapping. I mean, there have been cases where people get shoved into their trunk and taken away. But generally, that's a carjacking in furtherance of some other crime, and those people tend to know of each other. Not necessarily know each other, but know of each other. So, but yes, if they take you with them, it's kidnapping. If they take your child, it's kidnapping. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And thank you, Tinley Park and Tinley Park Police Department.